Welcome to Getting Home Sourced with G. Your one-stop shop for all things real estate. Gianno is your go-to guy with over 25 years of experience in the game, serving up the insider scoop on buying, selling, and investing in two of the hottest markets, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Cabo, Mexico. Whether you're looking to score the perfect home, seal the deal on a sale, or dive into the world of international investments, G's got the tips, tricks, and swagger to make it happen. Remember, in Nevada, the smart choice is the right choice. And when it comes to Cabo, you better go oceanside with Cabo G. If you were looking for a quiet, tranquil show about real estate, this ain't it. Gianno has this thing called passion. Let's unleash the beast. This is Welcome to Getting Home Sourced. And now your host, Gianno.
I cannot wait to hear this classic show from Las Vegas. Much love to you from your friend Frank Sinatra.
Hey, what do you say? What do you say? We got another rockin' show here today at Getting Home Sourced with G, and I'm your host, Gianno. And as always, I like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you're listening around the world. Thank you so much. As again, folks, I enjoy bringing the shows that we have every week for you, and of course, for my repeat offenders, love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show and giving your input and energy. It's what makes the show run, folks. And of course, for my first timers, my newbies that are listening for the first time or for the last couple of weeks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much whoever referred you. Pat on the back for me and tell them thank you. And of course, for all those, of course, my newbies that are listening right now, if you haven't gotten a hold of me already, then of course, I'm giving you my information. So you can get a hold of me toll free, 888-528-2810. And of course, you can reach me on my email, gianno@vegasresource.com. And of course, you can go onto my website, sign up for my newsletter, folks. That's the key. All the information's happening. And I have launched my new concierge division, taking care of everybody, especially seniors. That is the key. So you go to www.vegashomesource.com. Again, sign up for the newsletter. You have free MLS access to everybody from both Vegas and Cabo. So I encourage you all, please go on there, check out Vegas, check out Cabo. I know a lot of you have been checking out Cabo, but today's show, we're going to title it Rates, because that is the rage of the U.S. right now. Because, folks, the Feds just did a 25% rate cut for the Feds. However, people think that they merge it together with mortgage rates, and unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be working too much. So right now, I want to talk about rates because, again, it's about conversation and discussion, clarification, and intentions. What are we doing right now moving towards the end of the year, okay? And we're sitting on the sidelines as buyers. We're not knowing what's going on. We're trying to figure things out. We think the world's going to fall. We think the rates are going to drop, meaning mortgage rates. We think prices are going to come down. And unfortunately, that meatball recipe is not quite working out. So what does that mean? That means that right now, with the Fed rate cut of 0.25%, that does absolutely nothing to put a dent in the U.S. housing market. So specifically here in Vegas, where I service here for the last 26 years, and of course in Arizona for 21 years, so I'm in the Southwest and West Coast. Right now, you're not really seeing too much drop activity with rates and or pricing, maybe 5% drop. But again, folks, I try to tell people, divorce the rate and close the home, okay? Because everybody keeps hearing, marry the rate, close the home, or date the rate, marry the home, okay? All that nonsense. It's so ridiculous. I'm even confused. Forget about that stuff, because that got people in hot water and in big trouble. Because right now, I would never tell anybody that. Basically, it always talks about wants and needs. And like I said in my past shows before, this is the process of where we're going. You have to identify what are your intentions as a buyer.
Hello.
What are your intentions as a seller? How are you putting this all together? And that's the important thing, because right now you're seeing sellers, more inventory in the market here in Las Vegas, folks. I mean, right now we're over 10,000 properties. We have 2,500 in escrow. That number is still kind of a little low. And again, at the end of the day, as I said in my last show, we're averaging about 2,500 closings a month, but that is way off our pace of like 4,000, right? Because that means we have lesser inventory, and when you have lesser inventory, you have the multiple offers. So now what you're seeing is the Fed rate doing their 0.25% rate cut that just took place. Now October is a breather. They come back in November. Most likely they're going to do another 0.25% rate cut, and then we think that in December it's going to be 0.5%, which means you're going to have 1% total cut of the Fed rate, which should then start driving and spiking interest and bringing the interest rates down to now start making it affordable to purchase properties come 2026, right? So right now we're hovering at that 6% interest mortgage rate. That might go to 6.25 depending upon, and if you're basically with credit score, because we're credit driven here in the United States. So for all my international friends that are listening, you might have a wealth score. We talked about that in past shows, but here we still work on the FICO score, your personal credit score. So if you're at a 620, which the highest is 900,
yeah.
Well, if you're at 620 to 900, you're considered a paper, and therefore you're going to get the best rate, which right now would be 6.25. I'm not going to tab it at 6, but let's just say it fluctuates between 6.25. Now, if you're at B paper under 620, now you're looking at 6.5, maybe 6.75, right? So between the loan programs that we have out here, between FHA, which is really owner occupied right now, where you have 3.5% down, and then of course your rate, and then you have the conventional loans that are setting in, and then you also have the VA loans for our military friends, and of course thank you for your service. But those are the main rates that are going on right now. I know a lot of iBuyers are in the mix. They're circling the wagons, and they think there's blood in the water. Yes, because we are now seeing an uptick in foreclosures. So again, what does that mean? That means now that you're seeing iBuyers coming in, cashing out sellers. Sellers are not doing their due diligence because they're just kind of panic selling just to get out of the picture. They don't want to be involved. They don't want people running through their home. I get it. But at the end of the day, you're really losing out on your equity. Now, why are those sellers selling on a panic rate and they're just giving their homes away? Well, because they're not really giving their homes away per se, because the studies that I came up with, anybody who purchased a property here in Las Vegas 2019 or later, like 2018, 2017, those folks now, 6, 7, 8 years later, tons of equity. You have made double, maybe even triple your equity, unless you took a HELOC out, then we have another problem to discuss, right? But for those that are just clean, you're paying your mortgage, or maybe let's say you paid cash, you're already ahead of the game tenfold. Now, the people that bought like between 21 and 25, those are the ones right now that may have a little to, somewhat some type of equity, but not enough to be like double. But you still have enough skin in the game where they just want to get out, cash out, be done, break even, kind of like, what do you, like basically playing pie gow poker, right? High, low, and you sit there for 5 hours, you break even and make no money. Same kind of situation with 2021 buyers to present. So we have to focus now on what's taking place. So people are still getting confused because unfortunately you have my brothers and sisters out there that are in the real estate and mortgage lending world that are going on social media saying, hey, now's a great time to buy. They just dropped the rate, buy the home, and they're forcing people and they're forcing the consumers, specifically the buyers, hey, buy now, buy now, buy now. And see, that gets people upset. I would never do that. I don't do that. But basically what I do through the radio show and through my newsletters and through my contact lists and my CRM, my databases, I always give the information out there to see where everybody's at, because we have to find your intention as a buyer on how you're going to be buying property, how you want to buy property, what are you looking for, what do you want your mortgage payments to be, because sellers are still negotiating and they're still offering contributions, or we say seller contributions or seller concessions for the buyer to either buy down the rate to get the buyer's rate payment at a certain number where it's affordable for them, or they're paying their closing cost, or they're giving some type of concession for buyer repairs if there's some type of damage to the property, or they're just giving money for replace, refix items, right? So with that being the case, there's still a negotiated market that's taking place right now. So it all depends upon where their seller sits. I've already shown properties to a couple of buyers of mine from the show. So thank you so much for tuning in and utilizing my services. And they're realizing that the properties that they're looking at don't justify the numbers because sellers are pricing the homes higher than where they should be. It's artificially inflated. They're trying to capture lightning in a bottle. And really, they're just sitting on the market because a lot of the properties that I've seen here, especially in the Summerlin area, which is the west side of Las Vegas, they're averaging 90 days on the market. Why is that? There should be no reason why a house should be sitting 90 days in a market unless it's just too high, or the seller is not helping out the buyer to get them to where the payment needs to be, and of course the deal falls apart. That's why we talk about a lot of delistings. Sellers are upset, they take the property off the market, or the deal's not closing, a lot of fall throughs, a lot of canceled escrows, and most important, decreases in pricing, and you're still not selling the property. So that's kind of like the situation that we're stuck in right now. But stay right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to follow up with it.
The big lesson in life, baby, is never be scared of anyone or anything. I'm loving this gig, Gianno.
Hello, all my beautiful people. I want to tell you about my friends at Vegas Home Source. If you're looking for a home or a second residence, reach out to my friend G. He also has some great deals and connections in Cabo, Mexico as well. Tell him Celine Dion sent you and he will treat you right, because the hardest thing in life to find is balance. Go call Vegas Home Source today for all your real estate needs.
Hey, what do you say? What do you say? Thank you so much for sticking in on the back half of the show of Getting Home Source with G. As the title of the show, rates. And where are rates going? Crazy, because too many people, they're getting sucked in and they're getting duped, and I don't like to see it. It upsets me because every time I see a rate cut coming, or they talk about the Fed rate cut, you got people on social media like they have a degree in economics and they're going out there telling everybody, don't worry about it, just go buy and figure it out later. Well, not so fast, okay? So that's why I talk about having conversations and having discussions, because right now, since we are in a negotiated market, I think it's important to focus on communication, right? Because we have conversations, we have discussions, we're planning things out, we're strategizing. Because let me tell you something, folks. Now in the U.S., come toward the end of the year, okay, we have basically the end of September. So now you have October, November, December. Usually what happens in December, it's basically a wash. It's the end of the year. People that are listing their property if they're living in it, they're not going to show it. They're going to hold off on showings because of the holidays. They have family. They want to get through the New Year's and Christmas and Hanukkah and what have you and celebrate. And so no showings, right? The ones that are basically vacant, well, they don't care. They're hoping that they can get a cash buyer to come in because they may have money that they have to get off the books. 1031 exchange, whatever the case might be. Especially those 1031 exchange people, they have to spend the money. You use it or lose it. They're going to get taxed on it. They don't want to do that. So they have to move forward and buy something by the end of the year. But if you're financing as a buyer, you really want to lock down a rate, let alone a property, no later than Thanksgiving, or let's say the end of November. So this year, November 30th, right after Thanksgiving, you want to lock that rate in and then close it after January 1st, so the 2nd, 3rd, what have you, because you want to get that tax write-off benefit for 2027. So this when you're closing in 26, you have that all for 2026, and then you can write it off for 27. If you're closing it in 2025, hey, that's great. Hopefully you don't have a tax implication in 2026, so you have to be careful about that. So that's why it's important to talk to your accountant and then also talk to your lender So then my job is easy to go out and help you out in purchasing the property. But normally what I see here in Las Vegas is that it just slows down during the holidays. Really, nobody wants to deal with real estate. It's like our fiscal year end is November 30th. And then December, everybody's doing their office parties, Christmas parties, family vacations. They're out of here, or people are coming into town. Nobody's working, and basically December's a dead month. So that's why for sellers, if you're thinking about putting your property in the market, I would do so with the intent of knowing that you're going to have a buyer that's going to want to close. If they're not cash, they're going to want to close first part of January. If they're cash buyers and you're putting it out there to get a cash buyer, then expect to close by New Year's Eve, hopefully in a perfect world, right? So this way it's a 30-day quick close. So that's why people that are thinking about putting their properties in the market, start thinking about that like around November, the middle of November. This way people are starting to get a sniff. Hey, you know what? You also have family members that come in from all over the country, or they're coming in internationally. They come to Vegas. Hey, let's go look at some properties while I'm here. Maybe they want to buy. So that's why if you're thinking about buying now, folks, you want to start locking things in by the end of Thanksgiving. But however, for sellers, if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, again, I know you're probably getting a lot of phone calls from iBuyers, especially ones because, look, here in Nevada, we are a public record state, which means that we know what everybody bought the property for. We have telephone numbers, we have emails, we have addresses. We even have the docs that are even filed that we could pull up and see what was recorded, right? So it's public record here in the state of Nevada. So that's why I tell people in my past shows that when I'm calling you up, prospecting you in a subdivision, a neighborhood as a seller, because I do have buyers that are looking for deals, of course. So I call sellers in their subdivisions, and of course a lot of them get nasty, and I understand that because we want to respect people's privacy. I'm not going to call somebody out of the clear blue. Of course, I want to send an email, postcard, what have you, and be professional about it. However, that please don't get offended, like I say in my past shows, because I know people get upset, especially sellers, because now we have what's called a default list. And unfortunately, people that are missing their mortgage payment, or they have a credit card issue, anything that's hitting their credit score as a derogatory, boom, that gets notified. It gets shot out to people, especially title companies and people that are tracking distressed sellers. We get the information, I get a list, and I start calling people because that's my job. I got to see what's going on. And maybe you're in that process where you're thinking about selling, you don't know, you're trying to figure out who to talk to. But that's why here in Vegas, unfortunately, that foreclosure number is starting to creep up. And from when I did my last studies back in August, when I pulled a list last month, we're already at 2,200 plus homes that are 120-day late. So you're going to start seeing what we call the blue sticker on the door, where now the bank tells that note off, and now you're having a servicing company coming out and putting a foreclosure notice on the door. And if that's not happening, then what's happening is that particular entity or ownership, that note gets sold off to a third party, and that third party now tries to negotiate with the seller. And if they can't, then they're going to either foreclose on them and own the home back. Maybe they let them rent it and stay there and rent. I don't know. Or they boot them out and then they rent it out to somebody else, or they turn around and flip it. So folks, especially right now for sellers that are listening to me, and folks, for people that own property in Las Vegas and that live somewhere else, whether it be Canada or Mexico or South America, where have you, if you're thinking about selling, now would be a good time to get off the fence and give me a call, especially if investment properties, because now's the time to where a lot of investors are looking to pick up property with tenants already in place because it's easy cash flow money. So if you have a couple of properties and you want to package them all together, we can certainly take care of that for you. But for those that are locally living here and you're on the fence and you're thinking about selling, maybe you might be distressed. Again, this is a call out to letting you know that there are agents that have people's data and has people's contact information, know the zip codes around town, and they're calling people left and right because they know, or at least we know, that you might be in a financially distressed situation and we're trying to help you out. And the way I say I like to help you out is we want to keep you in your home. We don't want you to lose your home. However, but if you need the cash, you can always lease back, get yourself stabilized, and then reposition yourself to buy the property back if you can, or you're going to lease there for a year or two and then you move on and you get something else, right? So when you hear me calling you, it's because we want to make sure that you're not going to ruin your credit. And yep, you're going to have to start over again, but you still get a good deal being on the buyer side. So you experience it how it is on the seller side, but then you can also have it on the buyer side. So you're going to make out either way. You're saving your credit, you save yourselves, you get cash in your pocket, regroup, turn around, then you start to refinance again, and then you go buy another property if you want, unless you want to stay in your own home. Then that's between you and the investor that purchases the home for you. That's a different ballgame. But folks, like I said, please don't misconstrue and don't get confused about the mortgage rate and the Fed rate, because we're talking about the Fed rate right now, and that's what you hear about, cuts, and rates. That has nothing to do with mortgage rates. Mortgage rates right now, as of this show, are sitting at 6%. I'd like to see them go down to 5.5%, possibly even 5%. The only way that's going to happen is if between now and December, you still have the Fed rate cut go down to a full point, which I believe then would spike and start now the rate reduction for mortgages and at least go down by 0.5 point. That would be huge. That gets a lot of people in the ball game. They're reset for 2026. And then the battle's going to be, well, if the rates go down, usually prices go up. So now what happens? So then you have to ask yourself, and for all my lenders listening out there, is would you rather have your client buy a $600,000 home at a 5.5% rate, or buy a $500,000 home at a 6 or 6.5% rate, right? So that's what you have to ask yourselves. Figure out the mortgage payments, and I think you're going to realize that you always want to get the lowest price possible. Doesn't matter if the rate's high, because when it comes down, you're going to refinance it anyway, so who cares? The point is that don't let rates affect your judgment, especially when you have sellers that are willing to help you out and negotiate, so buyers have the power, and thanking the sellers for doing that, because without the sellers buying down the rate and possibly contributing to closing costs, sellers, if you're going to do that, you're better off doing that for an owner-occupied, that's somebody that really wants to buy your home, than just rather cashing out and losing 20 to 25% of your equity. And you're not even going to be anywhere near close to that when you're dealing with a realtor and you're listing your property between paying out brokerage fees and you're paying out commissions and you're paying out closing costs and repair money and buying down the rate. You're not even anywhere near that 25% hit off of your equity. So think about that. So on that note, folks, that's what we're talking about. It's crazy rates. This is what everybody's got on the brain. So I hope that kind of helps everybody out. And for all those that are listening, please feel free to reach out to me. Of course, you have Miss G, my virtual assistant. She's there to answer any questions you may have, whether it be Cabo or Vegas. But this show today, we're focusing domestically. We're focusing on Vegas. We want people to know what's going on over here. And again, for my international friends, of course, I love you guys. And any questions pertaining to the U.S., look, if you need housing reports, if you want market data, you want stats, I'm here for you. I give you the information because that's what it's all about. I can't give you that. And let me tell you something, folks. A lot of foreigners or internationals, whatever you want to say, they don't realize that you can own property here in the U.S., where I know in some places you can't own property, even though you're a local. Or if you're a foreigner going somewhere, you have to marry a native to own the property, right? But if you're a foreigner in some countries, you can't own it, period. Well, here in the U.S., you can. You can actually get an American LLC corporation set up, and you can even buy it through your own name. And there's international foreign programs that will help you do that. So contact me for that. I can help you get set up. But on that note, I want to say love you guys. God bless. Thank you so much again. I really, really appreciate everybody. Again, tune in to my newsletter. And if you haven't signed up, go to my website, VegasHomeSource.com, and I got you covered. So until then, God bless. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
For my money, Gianno is the best real estate podcaster in the business. He excites me when I listen. He moves me. He's the radio guy who gets across what the listener has in mind, and probably a little more. Great show, Goomba.
You have just listened to Getting Home Sourced with your radio host, Gianno Buonaguro. This podcast is a registered trademark and may not be reproduced without the express written consent of VegasHomeSource.com. For additional information about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, call or text Gianno toll-free at 888-528-2810 or visit his website at VegasHomeSource.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.